Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, the Outdated Gen Z, and I'm going to try my best not to spend too long in the intro here because I'm sure all of you want to see my personal opinion on Sonic Adventure 1. This video was announced about a half a year ago now, so I'm sure all of you just want to sit down and relax. And please, do. And I hope you enjoy. So let's just hop right in. Sonic Adventure was released on the Sega Dreamcast in Japan on December 23rd of 1998, September 9th of 1999 for here in North America, and on October 14th, 1999 for Europe. Now I'm sure you're asking, what the fuck is a Sega Dreamcast? Well, it was Sega's final console for being one of the main console manufacturers. The only console of theirs that did well was the Sega Genesis. The Sega Saturn didn't do well, and same as the Sega Dreamcast here, which made Sega become the third-party company some people love or hate for making Sonic colors. But anyways, 3D Sonic games weren't really a new thing at the time. There were technically some 3D Sonic games like Sonic the Fighter, Sonic R, and Sonic 3D Blast if you really want to make a big stretch about it. But those were just spin-offs and a shitty isometric 3D game. This is a real 3D Sonic game right here, and holy shit, they did fantastic for Sonic's first true 3D outing. So what do you do in Sonic Adventure? Right when you start your save, you can only play as Sonic, but you can unlock more characters to play as you progress in another story. For example, you can unlock Tails as soon as Sonic interacts with them in his story. You can of course play as Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, but for the first time, Amy, and you can play as newcomers to the series Big the Cat and E102 Gamma. Now once you beat all of these characters' stories, you unlock the Super Sonic story. And now I'm spoiling everything here. Let's start with Sonic's perspective of the story, shall we? So Sonic's story is basically exactly what you'd expect out of any Sonic game at this point. Sonic has to stop Dr. Robotnik from doing bad things and get all the Chaos Emeralds before Dr. Robotnik does. But this time around, Dr. Robotnik has a new companion named Chaos, and every time Dr. Robotnik gives him a Chaos Emerald, he becomes more powerful, so Sonic has to stop that along with Dr. Robotnik. And that's basically the entire main plot of Sonic's story. There's a couple other little plots here and there, but it's not the craziest story of all times, but it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Now for the gameplay of Sonic's story here, oh my god. It's fucking incredible, man. Sonic has no business controlling this well in 3D, and for basically the first shot of Sonic in 3D, it's absolutely amazing, and the controls are tight as fuck. And especially being paired with Sonic's open level design here in this game, it's just so good. And the first time ever, unlike the Genesis games, Sonic actually moves the fastest compared to the other characters in this game, which just makes Sonic actually stand out more than getting a fucking insta-shield as a gameplay mechanic. But anyways, immediately hopping into Sonic's story, we get to go against Chaos Zero. This is just Chaos without any Chaos Emerald buff. So yeah, pretty cool that there is a boss to start out the game though. It kind of makes sense with the story in this game, so I'll take it. But for the first true stage in Sonic's story, we get Emerald Coast, and it's awesome. The level design is really open, and you can take a bunch of cool little shortcuts if you know what you're doing. It's a great stage to mess around with Sonic's physics in this game. And basically the whole story on why Sonic's in Emerald Coast anyways is because Tails crashes plane nearby, so Sonic's gotta help him out. And then immediately next we get to fight the Egg Hornet. This is just a very basic Dr. Robotnik fight, so nothing too crazy. This is basically the Sonic Adventure counterpart of the drill car from Sonic 2, so there you go. And then after, when Dr. Robotnik steals a Chaos Emerald from Tails, we move on to Windy Valley. And honestly, this stage is pretty fun. It has a lot of alternate paths around if you know how to access them. And later on in the stage, a remix of Green Grove Act 1 from Sonic 3D Blast plays. So another win for me because I have a secret guilty pleasure with Sonic 3D Blast, so hell yeah. And after speedrunning, getting some upgrades for Sonic to get the Lightspeed Dash, we move on to Casinopolis. Basically what you have to do in this stage is get 400 rings, and then you'll be able to get the Chaos Emerald to beat the stage. And to get these rings, all you have to do is either explore around the level, or you can play a bunch of pinball. And you have an option of some pinball machines too. You either get a Sonic themed one, which then if you lose all of your extra balls, you go into a sewer segment of the level. But as well, there's also a Nights into Dreams themed pinball machine, and it's just lovely. I never played Nights into Dreams before, but I'm kind of tempted to now. Maybe there'll be a video on that in the future. And after that, we move on to Ice Cap. This is a reference to Sonic 3, mostly because, you know, Ice Cap is in Sonic 3, and I guess this is technically hooked up to Angel Island according to the whole map of Sonic Adventure, so this is the same Ice Cap as Sonic 3, so you already know there is a snowboarding segment. And after Ice Cap, we get to fight Knuckles. Knuckles got tricked by Robotnik again, which I'll explain a little bit more in Knuckles' story, but yeah, it's pretty cool that we're able to interact with the different characters, and not only dialogue-wise, but also boss-wise. And immediately after the Knuckles fight, we get to fight Chaos 4. Honestly, it's a decent boss. I'd say it's a little bit slow in some cases, but you know what, now that I think about it, it's actually okay. After that, we get introduced to Dr. Robotnik's egg carrier, la-di-da. Honestly, it's pretty obvious that he's gonna have some sort of flying base in the game anyway, so cool that it finally showed up in the story. Then we move on to one of the Sky Chase minigames. This is just a shooter level with the tornado. It's honestly pretty fun. I weirdly like shit like this in Sonic games that isn't a proper Sonic level. I unironically kinda enjoyed Sky Chase from Sonic 2, but of course I wouldn't want an entire game like this. It's just a nice little break. At the end of Sky Chase 1, the tornado gets shot down, Sonic loses Tails, and then meets up with Amy. Amy has a fucking bird, cause why not? Yeah. On to Twinkle Park. It starts out with a little bumper car racing segment, and it has Sonic 3D Blast music again, which is, once again, awesome. And the rest of the level is exactly what you would expect out of a Sonic level, but you know what? You get what you pay for, and it's fun. But after that, we move along to Speed Highway, and this is the definitive Sonic Adventure level. How could you get better than this? It has lots of alternate paths, it's fast-paced, it has banger music. What more could you ask from this level? But after beating the stage, Amy gets captured by a robot, Sonic tries to stop the robot, then the robot goes up to the egg carrier, and then Sonic heads up to Red Mountain to try to catch up with the egg carrier, and Red Mountain is a really fun stage. It has a lot of platforming gimmicks, but personally I never had too much of a problem with that. Plus the Inside the Volcano segment is awesome, and has one of my personal favorite songs in the entire game. But after beating the stage, Tails meets up with Sonic again with a new plane, and heads on to Sky Chase Act 2. This time Tails doesn't get shot down, lands on the egg carrier, so then Sonic can make it to the sky deck of the egg carrier. And it's an interesting stage. It's fun, but it's fairly difficult on your first go. But difficulty progression is good. But after making it through the sky deck, Sonic gets to fight one of Dr. Robotnik's robots, E-102 Gamma. Amy stops Sonic from absolutely destroying the robot, because she's just so sweet, isn't she? But then after that, we immediately hop into another Chaos boss fight. Chaos 6. And honestly, this is a really great boss. All you have to do is throw a bunch of these ice bombs at it so that it freezes itself, so then you can hit it. And the ice bombs are plentiful, so this boss is actually very fair. So good work on this boss, Sonic team. But after that, Sonic jumps off the egg carrier and realistically would have killed himself, but anyways, I guess we're moving on to Lost World. And this is a fairly gimmicky stage. It's a little bit slower of a typical Sonic stage, but I guess it's okay. It's just not my favorite in the entire game. But after some lore, we get to move on to the final stage in Sonic's story, Final Egg. And you know what? This is a fun final level. I really love this. I don't know, I just don't know why. I just really like it. But after beating the stage, we get the final boss for the story, the Egg Viper. I fucking hate this boss. The boss itself, you know what, it's actually pretty fun. You can easily memorize all the attack patterns, but the problem is the bullshit after when you beat the entire boss. After giving it its final hit, it then pulls some bullshit of exploding right on top of Sonic, so you can have one last bullshit death. And that's the entire problem I have with it. You'd think it would be fairly easy to dodge, but at least for me with my skill issues, this boss perfectly aligns with Sonic 9 times out of 10. Fuck this boss. But anyways, let's move on to Tails' story to calm myself down from that bullshit. Tails' story's plot is very similar to Sonic's, basically just trying to beat Dr. Robotnik, but Tails realizes that he's very reliant on Sonic, so he wants to become more of an independent person. So there is some sweet character development in this story. Now for the gameplay of Tails' story, it's a lot like Sonic's, but slower, but you can fly. And every main stage is a racing stage, I'd consider it, because you're always racing against someone. It's all just racing against Sonic to make it to the end first, but in the final stage it's Dr. Robotnik. So at the beginning of Tails' story, it's basically kind of like Sonic's story, but with the perspective from Tails. No shit. it's Tails' story. But then his first boss is actually the Egg Hornet, and I have nothing to really say about it because I already talked about it in Sonic's story, but this time you just get to fly, I guess, so yippee. But Tails' first stage here is actually Windy Valley, but only the segment that has the banger remix of Green Grove Act 1 from Sonic 3D Blast. And there is some pretty cool alternate paths to take advantage of Tails' moveset with the flying ability, so that's cool that there's actually level design changes for different characters in this game. I really appreciate stuff like that, to actually have segments dedicated to certain characters other than just, oh, now you're just playing the same damn level, but as a different character. It kind of reminds me of stuff like the Knuckles sections in Sonic 3 Knuckles, which is really cool. But after that, we get Casinopolis, but only in the sewer segment of it, and instead of the Chaos Emerald being in the Ring Collector area, it's instead just at the end of this segment. So I guess there is some minor inconsistencies with some of these stories, but after that we move on to Ice Cap, but only the snowboarding segment. And you know what? It's about damn time Tails gets a snowboarding segment, because he never got the snowboard section in Ice Cap from Sonic 3, so thank God it's finally here in Sonic Adventure. After that, we got the Knuckles and the Chaos 4 boss fight, just like Sonic, and yep, same statements apply from what I said from the Sonic story for these boss fights. And yes, we still get Sky Chase and Tails' story. Let's go. But after getting separated from Sonic, Tails moves along to another snowboarding stage, which is Sand Hill. And this is basically the one stage in Tails' story that isn't a racing level, but it's really cool that he has another snowboarding segment, so awesome. Anyways, lore: Big the Cat jump scare, Sky Chase Act 2, then Skydeck. But only the first segment of Skydeck, which I find very interesting. I feel like the entirety of Skydeck could work as a proper Tails stage, but I guess they just didn't feel like it because it's a racing segment against Sonic. But then we get to fight Gamma as Tails, and even the cutscene where Amy stops Sonic from destroying Gamma too much actually gets entirely changed, as Tails was technically the one beating up Gamma this time. Even the dialogue was changed too, which I'm glad that they put in the extra detail in this game. But after that, we move on to the final stage in Tails' story, Speed Highway. This is only the first segment of it from Sonic's story, but we get to race Robotnik to the end of the stage this time around. It's actually really cool. There's a special alternate route that only Tails can take in this level now, and I really love that. Then for the final boss, we get the Egg Walker, and holy shit, it's a lot better of a boss than the Egg Viper. Wanna know why? Because there's no bullshit at the end. But moving along to Knuckles' story here, Knuckles' story is basically just saving the Master Emerald. It got broken into a bunch of pieces, so now Knuckles has to re-find all these pieces to make Angel Island float again. And for the gameplay of Knuckles' story, I personally find it to be very underrated. And even though they were not talking about the Sonic Adventure 2's Knuckles stages, I also find those to be underrated. Basically what you have to do in each level is find 3 pieces of the Master Emerald, which are tracked hot, cold style. And you find them in multiple ways. You can either find them lying around on the stage, you can find them hidden inside of enemies, or they're even hidden in the ground. And you know what? I never had a problem with that. But anyways, let's talk about the actual story here. It first starts with Knuckles getting jump scared by Chaos here, and since the Master Emerald got broken after when Chaos showed up, he immediately thought that Chaos did it. But the first stage we get here is Speed Highway, particularly the last segment that doesn't take place at night. When you play this segment of Speed Highway as Sonic in the first place, with this being this open and then realizing that Knuckles' gameplay is like this, it fits perfectly for Knuckles. But after that, we move on to Casinopolis, but only in the main casino area. No pinball, no sewer. You just find the pieces of the Master Emerald by exploring around the entirety of the main area. And it's actually fairly big. There's actually an entire top floor segment that Sonic can't even access. But after some lore, we get to fight a Knuckles exclusive boss, Chaos 2. And just like Knuckles' treatment in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, I'd personally say that Knuckles' boss fights are a lot harder than Sonic's. They're not impossible or very hard by any means. I'd just personally say that they're a teensy little bit more challenging. But anyways, my personal opinion on Chaos is that it's kind of bullshit and it takes forever to be able to hit this guy. And after that, we move on to Red Mountain. I'm not too sure if this is an actual little segment from Sonic's Red Mountain or if it's an exclusively made for Knuckles. I honestly can't really tell. But you know what? It's decent. But after that, we fight Sonic. Knuckles got tricked by Dr. Robotnik earlier on, saying that Sonic was getting the pieces of the Master Emerald as well, but he was just getting the Chaos Emeralds. And yes, we get to fight Chaos 4's Knuckles as well, and this is when I definitely found out that Knuckles has harder boss fights, I swear. Or maybe I'm just going crazy. I might be going crazy. But after that, we get Lost World as Knuckles. Once again, a little segment of it from Sonic's, but it's honestly the least annoying part of Lost World, so it's actually pretty okay. But for Knuckles' final stage, we get Skydeck, particularly the segment from Sonic's story that had the entire tilting section, and it turns out that we get to tilt the entire stage as Knuckles, so it makes a lot of sense story-wise, I guess. I don't know why, out of all things, that tilt got affected between different stories, but there we go. But after that, Knuckles' final boss is Chaos 6, but this time without Dr. Robotnik saying his famous quotes. I guess it's less annoying, but on the bright side, at least we got a Knuckles exclusive attack pattern. But moving along to Amy's story here, it's basically just about her befriending a fucking bird. That's it. And this robot chases after her the entire game because she wanted to protect the bird. Gameplay-wise, it's way slower than Tails and Knuckles stages, and she cannot jump or roll into a ball, so she has her hammer to protect her instead, which requires more button inputs than a normal jump. And you know what? I honestly like the challenge from Amy here. Plus, she gets chased down by that same robot in every single level, so yippee, try not to die. But anyways, Amy's story starts up with meeting up with Sonic and then heading into Twinkle Park. She doesn't get the bumper car segment like Sonic does, but gets the main level segment and her own exclusive section dedicated to make the robot look scary as all hell, or as scary as a Sega Dreamcast game could get. But after that, Amy gets kidnapped. She basically sweet talks enough with Gamma to escape, and then we move on to Hot Shelter, which is a level that even Sonic can't access. And Hot Shelter's really fun. This is a really cool level. Lots of interaction with gimmicks, and the gimmicks are actually pretty okay. So, it's a win in my opinion. Anyways, you'll never believe this, but more lore, and then the Sonic vs. Gamma boss fight that, you know, since Amy's such a nice girl, she doesn't fight at all. But after hitching a ride from Tails' flight to get off of the egg carrier, Amy goes to the final egg. Once again, just a little clip from Sonic's final egg, but it's pretty okay. And then after that, you go back to the egg carrier. After making it there, her bird friends reunite with its family, and then you get to fight the stupid robot that's been chasing you the entire damn game as the final boss. And goddamn, this boss is easy as all hell. But let's move on to one of the new characters in this game, Big the Cat. Big the Cat's story is basically trying to reunite with his frog friend named Froggy. Froggy got taken over by Chaos by Froggy eating a part of Chaos, and since Big has no idea what happened, he has to save his best friend. Now, gameplay-wise for Big, you just fish. And this was the one thing that everyone absolutely fucking despises in Sonic Adventure. And you know what? It just seems like a fucking skill issue. Once you know where Froggy is in these fishing stages, the stages are fucking easy as all hell. I don't see the problem with Big stages here. Like, honestly, just get better. But anyways, with the start of Big's story here, you just chase around Froggy for a little bit, and then you go all the way to Twinkle Park. To catch Froggy in this stage, it's very simple. You find them in the pool of the main segment of Twinkle Park. But anyways, we move along to Ice Cap, and all you have to do to find Froggy here is break open a certain part of the ice, and then there you go, you found him. Then after that, we move along to Big meeting up with Tails after Tails accidentally drops Froggy due to the jump scare. But then we move along to Emerald Coast here, and honestly, Emerald Coast in Big's story is actually pretty decent. He has his own exclusive song for the stage, and it's very simple to find Froggy. All you have to do is just swim around in a certain part of the stage and you'll find him. But after when Gamma captures Froggy, Big then moves along to the Hot Shelter of the egg carrier. And Big's segment is just the fish tank area of Hot Shelter, and all you have to do is just drain the water and then you can catch a Froggy. Yippee! Then finishing off his story, he gets lore, and then he has his own version of Chaos 6. All you have to do to beat Chaos 6 in his style is just catch Froggy that's currently stuck inside of Chaos 6 with his fishing rod, and it's dead easy. But now let's move on to the final story before the final story, E102 Gamma. So Gamma here is a special robot that Dr. Robotnik made exclusively for this game, and at first the goals of Gamma here was exactly what he was programmed to do, just do what Dr. Robotnik tells him to do. But then after getting sweet-talked by Amy, he basically goes rogue on Dr. Robotnik and now wants to save animals by killing the other E100 units. And honestly, this is kind of a sad story, spoilers. But gameplay-wise for Gamma here, it's basically just a shooter but on a stricter time limit. In order to get more time on the clock, all you have to do is just defeat enemies. But anyways, for Gamma's first stage here, we get a little segment of Final Egg, but his own exclusive training area that all of the E100 units used. It's filled with Tails and Knuckles dolls, but the end of the stage you have to shoot at a Sonic doll a bunch of times. And you know what? It's actually really cool seeing what it's like to train Dr. Robotnik's robots behind the scenes. But after that, Dr. Robotnik forces Gamma to start fighting Beta, and after beating Beta, Dr. Robotnik just treats him like scrap metal, which I guess technically that's what Dr. Robotnik's robots are, so I guess he's being treated right, but technically treated worse, because now he's just gone from the E100 unit group. But after that, we move along to Emerald Coast, particularly just the first segment of it from Sonic's Emerald Coast, and the goal here in Emerald Coast is to catch Froggy after Big catches him in his story. After that, lore, then he turns Froggy into Dr. Robotnik, finds out that Beta's being rebuilt into a different robot, gets a sweet talk from Amy, then fights Sonic, and has his own special version of the cutscene as well. Basically now Amy is stopping Gamma from killing Sonic. But after that whole experience, this is when his goals change, and he now needs to destroy the other E100 units. His next stage here is Windy Valley, just the first segment from Sonic's, where he gets to fight E103 Delta. Next we move along to Red Mountain here, and Gamma's segment here is dedicatedly the awesome section I loved from Sonic's story. So it's a pretty banger time, just this time you get to shoot things down instead of running around at the speed of sound. And then we fight E104 Espelon here. But next we move along to Hot Shelter here. Gamma has his own exclusive train segment of it, but also he has one of these segments from Amy's Hot Shelter early on, but I just figured that the train segment is more important to talk about here, and it is. It's pretty cool. But then we fight E105 Zeta here, and it is different from the other E100 units, but I'd say it's just as simple to beat as the others, so I don't really have anything to say about this one here. But to finish it off, we get to fight E101 Mark II, which is honestly a really fun boss. It's a little bit kind of bullshitty here and there because you can't hit him that often, but this is a great boss to close out Gamma's story. But after beating him, 101 then gives a nice last cheap shot to Gamma to make sure that he's pretty beat up, but it's revealed that Amy's bird friend's family is inside of these two robots, so there was a pretty good deed going on in this entire story. But anyways, now that all those stories are wrapped up, I guess it's time to talk about the final story. This takes place right after when Sonic defeats Robotnik's Egg Viper. And in a nutshell, what happened here was Angel Island fell again, even though that the Master Emerald is still there. And then Chaos went rogue on Robotnik and found the final Chaos Emerald, and then became Perfect Chaos. And then Sonic was able to turn it to Super Sonic because it turns out that Chaos only sucked out the negative power of the Chaos Emeralds, and Sonic can use the positive energy of the Chaos Emeralds to defeat him. And yeah, that's basically the entirety of Final Story here. It was just a very interactive cutscene, and then the true final boss of this game. And the final boss is awesome. You get some banger music in the background, because this was the first Sonic game to have Crush 40 music in it. Particularly Sonic Adventure here had to open your heart, and God, I love Crush 40. It's a banger. But overall, the final boss is pretty okay. I'd say in some cases it's kind of bullshitty, but honestly, it's just most of my skill issues pulling in on me. So, yeah. Well, aside from the main game, there is some extra stuff you can do in Sonic Adventure to kill more time. For example, you can replay some levels a couple extra times just under special conditions, like making it to the end of the stage with a certain number of rings, or making it under a certain amount of time. And as well, if you're playing the DX version of Sonic Adventure, if you get albums which are given out to you, if you finish a level, if you beat a boss, or if you replay a level and then beat that special condition, you can unlock all 12 of the Sonic Game Gear games, and I have nothing to say about them because I am honestly pretty done with Game Gear games, not only from the past, but in a future video too. But as well, if you get all of the elements, you can unlock Metal Sonic, which I did not feel like doing. And same as the Sonic Adventure DX missions, I didn't feel like doing that either. But I feel like I should look at those in the future, so look out for a video about that. Okay, this is just laziness at this point. Well, with that, that was Sonic Adventure. And like I said before, this was an incredible first true 3D Sonic game. Not only does Sonic control really well in this game, but also the other playstyles are pretty fun, to be honest. Even Big the Cat, to me, in my personal opinion, I think is still really fun to play. And you know what? I'm just gonna say it right now. I like Sonic Adventure 1 more than Adventure 2. Now, don't get me wrong, I still love Sonic Adventure 2, and I cannot wait to make a review about it in the future as well. But this game is just a little bit better, honestly. Like, for example, you can play as all of these stupid play styles separately if you really hate them that much. But more importantly, I think the level design is a lot more interesting. There's a lot more going on. There's a lot more different paths you can take. And hell, this soundtrack is honestly better to me, in my opinion. This soundtrack is absolutely incredible. Now, I'm sure everyone's gonna hate me for saying shit like that, but you know what? Just let me and the other Sonic Adventure 1 fans, like, you know, chill out and eat a fucking sandwich without having to get yelled at saying that, oh, Sonic Adventure 2 is better because it has Shadow the Hedgehog in it. But that's it. I love Sonic Adventure 1. Well, that was Sonic Adventure, and in a nutshell, in my personal opinion, I think that this game did a fantastic job bringing Sonic into true 3D for the first time. I understand why most people prefer Sonic Adventure 2 over Adventure 1, but I feel like most of the complaints of Adventure 1 comes from the fact that everyone exclusively plays the Steam version of the game, which is the worst version to play. If that's the version that you all played, then please, for the love of God, play a different version of Sonic Adventure 1. You got the Dreamcast original, you got the GameCube version of Sonic Adventure DX, which is still okay in my personal opinion, and you can literally just get the PC version of Sonic Adventure and add a shit ton of mods to it. That's what I did, and it's fantastic. So please, don't hate on Sonic Adventure 1 just because you played the Steam port. That's all I gotta say. But that's it. I hope to see you in the next one, and the one after that. Bruh.